Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my recordings. This is, in many ways, a fascinating time of the year, right? It is the start of the year, and it is fascinating for me. As a guy that was big into fitness, this was always a crazy time of the year. It was crazy because it is almost impossible to go into a gym anywhere in this country and be able to get a flat bench. It is tough this time of year to go into a gym and be able to get a squat machine or to be able to get like a free treadmill. The competition out there is fierce. Let me tell you, it's crazy. And it is crazy because this is the time of the year when everyone is making their New Year's resolutions, and they are trying desperately to achieve and to hold on to those resolutions by descending upon local gyms, fitness centers, YMCAs in droves. I mean, try to find a parking spot. It is brutal. You can do a solid cardiovascular workout just walking from the parking spot you're going to have to take at the gym to get to the gym. That is a great warm up right there. I mean, it's crazy. It really is. And I'm so thankful I actually have cardio equipment in the basement of the house so I can actually go down there and do cardio. But this right now, this is a crazy time of the year for people that are trying to actually go to the gym, because everyone is doing their New Year's resolutions. And I can tell you for a fact, this is the time of the year in which gyms and health clubs will make a ton of money. They make a ton of money. Why? Because they are signing up all of these people that are making their New Year's resolutions to 1-year contracts. They're signing them up for 1-year contracts. They're sometimes waiving some of the sign-on fees and things like that. Sometimes they're not waiving the sign-on fees. Sometimes the fees have actually gone up because the gyms know that they need to make money. But this is for someone that used to go to the gym like on a regular basis, right? This was also the time in which I knew that I had to be super nice to people in the gym. And I was super nice to people in the gym because they were the folks that were basically underwriting my own gym membership. And what I mean by that is that the gyms make a ton of money during this time. They make a lot of cash, and they basically keep the lights on for portions of the year because of the revenue that is being generated by those people that come in, sign up for those year memberships, and then drop off in February. Because that's oftentimes what happens is you have a ton of people come in, and the gym is a jungle for most of January, and then oftentimes part of February, and then it drops off dramatically. A lot of those people are never seen from before again, and then they're still paying their memberships. Sometimes they opt out, but they have to pay a fee to get out. And so I was always super nice to those people because they were basically underwriting my membership. And I always in my head said to myself, I'm going to be nice to these people, and I am going to get my money's worth. If you take how much I used to pay in a gym membership and spread it out across the days that I was actually in that gym, it was almost free. That is how often I was in the gym, And so you might be listening to this right now. You might be saying, well, what does any of this have to do with comic books? So, I mean, it's a legit question. There's no doubt about that. It's a legit question. And here's where I'm going. Well, let me back up. So a lot of these people, unfortunately, don't stick with their New Year's resolutions. And it is honestly, it's sad and it's tough because fitness is important. Health is important. And so while I do, this kind of as tongue in cheek, I want to absolutely acknowledge that this is not necessarily a good thing, right? Going to the gym, working out, having good cardiovascular health doing strength training. All of these things actually make life a lot easier for people. And my hope, honestly, is that more people actually are able to achieve their New Year's resolutions, especially if they are related to fitness and to health and to stop smoking and all of those things that we know we need to do. And what I would say is that when I was in the fitness world and I was writing ebooks and articles and things like that for magazines and websites all around the world, one of the things that I always stressed for people is that they make a goal. They have a goal. In business, I think there were some statistics that I saw a couple of years ago that basically said that if a company or sometimes even an individual actually has a written goal, they are 70% more likely to actually achieve that goal than if they did not have a written goal. And that is why companies spend a lot of time doing brand planning, right? 3-year planning, 5-year, 10-year planning. That's why you do performance management, goal setting activities for individuals, is because if you have a written goal and a process to measure your progress against that goal, you are more likely to actually achieve that goal. 70%, in fact, right? I mean, and the number might actually be higher. It could be somewhere between 70 to 80%. But my point is that if you have a goal, you are more likely to achieve that goal than if you don't have a goal. Whatever the percent is, it is a favorable percent, right? And so this does bring me to the point that I want to make about comics. That the same way that a lot of people are making these New Year's resolutions and they're going out there and they're signing up for the gym and all that kind of stuff, we in the comic book community are spending a ton of time making videos and making these graphics for Instagram, where we show our want list for 2020. We're like, hey, these are the books that I want, right? We are drawing a line in the sand and saying this is where I am going to focus my efforts in 2020. And I applaud everyone that has written out or have basically created one of these graphics, has made a video or whatever it is that you've done to identify where you want to focus your efforts in 2020. I think that is great. I really honestly do think that is great. But here's the question. How likely are you to actually achieve that want list? How likely are you to achieve what it is that you've identified that you want to do if you don't have an actual written plan? An actual written plan for how you are going to behave, how you are going to save up your money, how you are going to be able to afford these many books, and in many cases, let's be honest, expensive books that you've identified for yourself. That is the question. That really is the question. It's easy to say, I want. But the question becomes, how are you going to behave? How are you going to execute to actually make that want into a reality? That is the question of the day, right? And as I mentioned, if you go to Instagram right now and you scroll through, there is graphic after graphic after graphic where people have put up their want list. But I haven't seen anybody basically say, here is how I am going to go about making my want list a reality. And I would say, look at your list. If you have a list, pull it out. Pull it up on your phone. Look at it. What does that want list say about you? Is that nothing more than a random assortment of comics? Or is there a story to be told? And what I mean by that is, does your want list, does it ladder back to something greater? As you look at your list, are they full of modern books? Is it full of modern books? Are you basically saying that ultimately I am a collector who collects moderns and I want moderns? Is your book or your list a bunch of Bronze Age books or Copper Age or Silver Age or Golden Age? Does your list ladder back to something greater that you could identify as a specific goal for yourself, where you could say, based upon this want list, my goal is to have, for me, the best Spider-Man Silver Age collection that I could ever have. Does it ladder back to something else, or is it just a random assortment of books that you've identified? And if it's a random list, that's okay too, but you at least want to kind of look at that and be aware. And then you have to ask yourself, is that really what I want my want list to be? Do I really want my want list to be a random assortment of things? Or if I swap this book out with this book, or that one for this one, that it could ladder back to a greater goal where I can say to myself, for example, I love Alex Ross, for example, and my want list is basically full of Alex Ross books, and I want to have in 2020 the best Alex Ross collection of books that I could possibly have. Now, you don't have to do any of this, right? You don't have to do any of this. But what I'm suggesting again is that if you have a want list, you may want to take some time to articulate a goal for yourself, to write it out, because you're more likely to achieve that goal, more likely to be able to get those books that are on your want list if you have a definitive goal in mind. Now, how does this help? It helps if when you look at your goal, and you look at your want list and they make sense. They're connected. They make sense. They give you focus. Moreover, they help you to resist the temptation that will come. the temptation that will come when speculation starts to happen. For example, right, when you're sitting there watching some YouTuber talk about some hot book, or you see some list and you're like, man, I could grab that book right now and it could be worth X in a short period of time. You can look at that video and you can enjoy that video, and then you can look at your goal and your want list and you can say, but that does not fit with what I am actually trying to accomplish for myself. That book that this person is talking about, this book that is on this list, is not a book that is actually on my want list for 2020. Therefore, it is not a book that I'm going to buy. Now, if you have infinite resources, then you don't need to do any of this. It doesn't matter, right? But if you don't have infinite resources, by having a goal, it will allow you, in a want list that is tied to that goal, it will allow you to resist the temptations that will come when you see things like this. It will allow you to resist the temptation when you're in your local comic shop and you see a book that is 20% off and you're like, man, I think I'm going to get it because it's cheap. But that book might not fit the goals that you have for yourself in 2020. It may not even be on your want list. And so you can then ask yourself, do I really want to spend the money? Even though it's 20% less, do I want to spend the money on this book versus waiting to get this book that I really want, that puts me down a path of achieving the goal that I have set for myself? The problem with us is that there is so much temptation. There are so many books out there that we see on Instagram, that we see on YouTube, that we see in the local comic shop, that we see in previews magazines, that we see on the web. There are so many books out there that we are always tempted to spend a little here, a little bit there, but without having a goal, you start to nickel and dime that money away. And then when you go to look at your want list in the middle of the year, you're like, but I haven't done anything. You've done a lot, just not in pursuit of the goal that you've set for yourself. So sometimes it pays. Sometimes it pays to actually have not just a want list, but an actual goal for one's collection. A goal can give us focus. It can help us from spending money on things that are temporary pleasures, that are things that bring a little bit of gratification, but ultimately won't make us happier as collectors and don't really contribute to the collections that we are trying to build. You want to ask yourself a couple of questions about your want list. You may want to take a little bit of time to figure out what kind of collection you actually want. Because if you don't take the time, you will nickel and dime money away. You'll end up with books that don't necessarily make you happy. You will be staring at a want list come the end of 2020, start of 2021, and you're going to say, I did not achieve my goal. The truth is that you can do it. You can achieve your goals. You can get that want list if you have a plan. Your plan should even include things like how much money you are going to save every single week or every single month in order to buy the book that you're aiming for. Because it's one thing to have a want list. It's another thing to actually have a plan. It's another thing to have a detailed written plan that spells out what you are going to do in order to achieve that goal. And this doesn't have to be some kind of elaborate PowerPoint presentation or some very long thing. It can be, my goal is I will do the following in order to buy this book. I will save $100 per month per check or whatever it is in order to buy this $500 book. So at the end of 5 months or whatever time measure you put there, if you have it broken down into these milestones, you have a definitive end date in mind that will allow you to save the $500 that you need to save to buy that $500 book. And once you have that book, then you have your reward at the very end. Don't be like those people that set these wonderful, wonderful, and helpful resolutions, but fail to achieve them because they fail to have a plan. Take the time to do it. It only takes a couple of minutes, and once you write it out, you ask yourself a lot of tough questions around, does this make sense? Is this really what is going to make me happy? And if the answer is yes to those questions, you have it written out, post it up somewhere where you can see it. Post it up. That way you can actually look at it and you can remind yourself what it is that you are working towards, what it is that you are saving for, why you are delaying some instant gratification. It helps to keep the goal and the objective front and center. As always, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this recording. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that this is in some way helpful to folks out there. If you found it helpful, I want to definitely encourage you to give it, the video, the vlog, a thumbs up. Definitely want to encourage you to leave a comment behind so we can mix it up in the comment section. And you may even want to check out some of the other videos that I have on the channel about this very topic that I did in years past. If you need to reach out to me, feel free to do so on Instagram at Regie Collects, or you can get me via email at reggie@regiecollects.com.